This is a recording from a Sunday meeting of the BC Humanist Association in Vancouver. Humanism is a progressive worldview that, without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead meaningful, ethical lives capable of adding to the greater good of humanity. To learn more about humanism and to support our work, visit bchumanist.ca and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to the BC Humanist podcast. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect those of our staff or board of directors.
Okay, I'm glad you're here. I don't know how you managed to get here in the snow, but I hope you find the meeting worthwhile, and I'll try to switch the slide. Okay. Recovery International is a self-help peer support group for people who wish to improve their mental health. Recovery was founded 8 years ago by Dr. Abraham Law. This is Dr. Law, as you see. He's very good looking. And that's why, of course, part of the reason I joined. He was born in Poland in 1891. He went to high school in France, attended medical school in France and Austria, and after serving in the Austrian army, he graduated with a medical degree in 1919 from the University of Vienna Medical School. In 1920, he immigrated to the United States and practiced medicine as a neuropsychiatrist at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Dr. Law noticed that that former patients who have been hospitalized at the Psychiatric Institute at the university exhibit the revolving door syndrome. After getting better, they relapse and have to be hospitalized again. So, to improve patient care after discharge, in 1937, Dr. Law founded Recovery Inc. with 36 recovering patients. Initially, Dr. Law was running the group, but after 4 years, he began to teach members to lead groups in their homes. Following Law's death in 1954, Recovery transitioned completely from a professionally run treatment adjunct to a peer-run self-help group. And his most important book, at least for us, is Mental Health Through Wheel Training, and it was published in 1950. The recovery method is effective to relieve a variety of symptoms and conditions like depression, anxiety, stress, anger, helplessness, hopelessness, and more. It is also great for relationship problems, except my own. Recovery offers its members a method to regain and maintain their emotional health. If you can change a situation, you can change your attitude toward it. The recovery method consists of easy-to-learn techniques and tools for changing the way we react to people and situations we have no control over by taking personal responsibility for our own mental health. So, why do I think Recovery International is wonderful? Number one, it is an inclusive, secular organization open to people of all creeds. You don't need a doctor referral. You can just drop in regardless of issues. Number two, it is free to attend, with a suggested donation of $5 if you can afford it. Number three, meetings are held weekly. Well, if you are thinking of getting away with just reading the book, remember this. You may have practiced bad thinking habits for decades. New, good thinking habits need practice. 1 month after reading a book, if you're anything like me, you're going to forget it all. So weekly meetings are a good reminder. Number four, it is a self-help peer support group. Meetings are facilitated by volunteers who practice the recovery self-help techniques. We are not mental health experts or trained professionals. By attending group meetings, you'll find that you're not as special as you think you are. There are others who share your experiences, difficulties, and symptoms. Number five, the recovery method is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most extensively studied non-pharmaceutical psychological treatment method. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on the premise that our negative emotions are caused by our thoughts. Often, we take our emotions as evidence for the truth. However, this is a mistake. Negative emotions are often based on distorted thoughts. Distorted thoughts. Unpleasant feelings merely indicate that you are thinking something negative and believing it. Your emotions follow your thoughts just as surely as baby ducks faithfully follow their mother. But the fact that the baby ducks follow faithfully along doesn't prove that the mother knows where she's going. Members learn how to identify and manage negative thoughts and behaviors. Our main tools are called spottings. Spottings, short, memorable sentences that help us spot angry and fearful temper. This is the last point. And help us gain new perspective on the situation. So here are some examples. Feeling rise and fall if you let them. People do things that annoy us, not necessarily to annoy us. Self-appointed expectations lead to self-induced frustrations. Excuse. Don't accuse yourself and others. There are over 600 weekly Recovery International meetings held throughout North America, Ireland, the United Kingdom, Israel, and India. These are the groups we currently have in the Lower Mainland. In North Burnaby, meetings are held every Tuesday at 1 p.m. The leader of this group is Gordon, who will be speaking next. And it's probably the best group to attend because one of our leaders, Sue, always bakes us a wonderful cake. Yeah, Port Coquitlam, North Delta, and Langley hold weekly evening meetings on weekdays. We are slowly expanding into Vancouver. Gordon just started a group helping with relationship issues, which meets Mondays at noon at 1 and First Avenue and Commercial Drive. I have started an evening group which attempts to merge the recovery method with the writings of a more contemporary cognitive behavioral therapist and author, Dr. David Burns. He is the author of the book Feeling Good. We meet at the library branch near 57th Avenue and Victoria Drive. In my opinion, recovery groups are a vital component of a supportive community, and Vancouver should be flooded with such groups. You can help us in the expansion if you join. After 6 months, you can lead a new group, and you do it, not alone, but 2 people usually start a new group. To those who can't make it to one of our face-to-face meetings, there are also phone meetings and internet meetings available. So now, I don't know if I saw you, but Gordon in the next section will sell you on our group. So for more info, you can go to meetup.com and look for the Anxiety and Depression Skills Group, or visit recoveryinternational.org.
Well, thank you, Sigal, for your introduction. I'm very happy to be here, and also very thankful to Ian and Dan for getting all this set up. And I am very passionate about recovery because for me, it's something that has helped me through depression. And it was a long period of time where I wasn't able to work. And I also had a lot of relationship issues with my wife. They wanted divorce and all these issues. I found that I've gone to different types of treatment modalities, individual psychotherapy, psychiatrists, pills, and whatnot. Out of all the different treatment methods, I found that recovery was the most successful for me. And I found that since I started recovery, I'm able to work again. And knock on wood, I'm still married. So I'm very, very thankful. Very, very thankful. One of the things that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing an example so that you actually see what we do at the meeting. And I think you'll lead. And Ezra, you want to read the example? Okay, so we'll just do an example, just so you understand what we do in a typical meeting. All right, so let's get started on the example.
Step 1.
Report a single situation or event that occurred.
Well, what happened this morning is that I got up kind of late. It was like 8 o'clock, and then I looked out the window and I saw that snow outside, and that's when I kind of flipped because I realized that I had to come to the meeting, and just the thought of the snow just sort of scared me.
Step 2.
Report the symptoms you experience, both physical and mental. For instance, angry and fearful thoughts, confusion, palpitations, disturbing impulses, tightness in your chest, lowered feelings, sweaty palms, and so on.
Well, I had a sort of an angry feeling, but I was more angry at the situation, the fact that it snowed, and I guess I was a bit angry at myself because I should have got up a bit earlier. And the fearful thought was I would sort of, I might be late for the meeting because I had to do some digging. Because I have quite a steep driveway and there's quite a bit of snow that was piled up in the back. What type of physical feelings I had was I had some anxiety, I had some lowered feelings, and some sweaty palms, I guess. Yep, so that's about it for that.
Yes, step 3.
Report your spotting and fearful and angry temper. The Recovery International tools you use to help yourself and your self-endorsement for your effort.
My fearful temper, I was worried about being late. The angry temper, I was angry at the situation regarding the snow. And the tools I used, those are the spotting tools that Sigal was showing earlier. One of the tools I used was, it's average to make a mistake, and that I don't have to be a martyr, angel, saint, or hero, and that I can drop the exceptional responsibility. And I didn't endorse then, but I will now.
I'm glad you make it here. Step 4.
Begin with, before I had my recovery training, and describe the temperamental reaction and symptoms you would have experienced in former days. What would have happened then versus what happened now? This will help you to know the progress you have made.
Well, before I did recovery, I would have been a lot more, I guess, very, very anxious. And also I wouldn't be able to think as clearly, because one of the things that recovery teaches you is that we believe that we let our intellect guide us rather than our emotion drive us. And I know in the past I was more driven by emotion. Like, for instance, I would be anxious, and then as a result of being anxious, I wouldn't be able to think clearly. But in this case, I was able to use the tool Decide, Plan, and Act, which means I was able to think clearly in the moment. Well, what should I do? So what I did was, I ran to my son's room, and then I yelled at him to get up to help me dig out the driveway. And that took off a lot of the anxiety, because before I would have just been flustered and I wouldn't know what to do. I have to admit, my son did not like that idea because he was sleeping, but I mean, I realized that it was just too bad. So I find that that helped me a lot, in that I'm able to sort of make my needs met by being assertive in that what I want to do. So rather than feeling that I have to take all the responsibility myself to clear the whole driveway, well, he lives there, man. It's too bad. He's going to have to do the digging. So,
Did you yell at him, or did you ask him?
No, I just say it was a very strong suggestion. Yeah, a very strong suggestion. And especially, I have leverage on him because he doesn't have a car, and he has to borrow my car to go anywhere. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. Probably be my disadvantage if he ever bought a car, definitely. So so actually I came here, I was only a little bit anxious, not very anxious, so I think that's been quite a big change in terms of how I deal with things. Okay, so one,
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So yes, so now it's the spotting part, and now Gordon has to be quiet, and we have to come up with spottings that we think would have been useful in this situation. So if you can change the situation, you can change your attitude towards it.
Be self-led, not symptom-led. These are spottings, by the way. So these are like little mantras that we have that are easier to remember than remembering a whole book chapter. So that's why we they're called spottings, and it's just the term they use. Go ahead.
Comfort is a want, not a need.
Treat mental health as a business and not as a game.
Do things in part acts.
Nervous symptoms and sensations are distressing, but not dangerous.
Okay. Done? Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Sigal, for leading the example and Ezra for reading the example. I just want to talk briefly about what the spotting tools are. The spotting tools basically are, well, I guess you call them mantras or slogans. And what these do is a sort of a succinct way that you can insert a thought into your everyday processing that you can actually alter your emotional response. Like, for instance, the one you can't change the situation, but I could change my attitude towards it. Like this morning, I couldn't change the situation that there was snow everywhere, but I could change my attitude. I don't have to be anxious. And, you know, this is what people don't really realize, is that you believe that your emotions just flow over you, that you don't have control over them. But you do. Your anger and all your feelings are because you have certain thoughts about the situation. When you analyze it and you think about these thoughts, you can change your emotional reaction. This is not typically something that people do because this is not what we learn. We believe, yes, we're perfectly correct to be angry at someone or something like that. But you don't. You choose to be angry. And that is what changed my life. I chose. I didn't realize that I was choosing my anger. And that was consuming me. And I found that using this program is a wonderful sense of freedom that you have, that you're no longer controlled by all these emotional things, that you have to do this and that, driven by emotion. You can actually control it using intellect. And that is what I am very, very thankful for the program, that it's enabled me to understand that. And not only understand that, is to actually implement it. Because using the tools, I was actually had a method I could actually use. Like, I had gone to individual therapy. I mean, I got nothing but good to say about, you know, the therapist talking about all your feelings and all your past history. I think that's really wonderful. But I'm telling you, if you really want to change your life and move to something that's going to really help you, you start adopting this type of practice, and it can change your life. I found that even accepting one of the tools and really sort of absorbing it and actually utilizing it, you can really, really change. Like for me, the tool I used was people do things that annoy, not to annoy. Like before I took the recovery practice, I actually believed my wife was saying things to bother me. But I realized it's got nothing to do with that. Her behavior has nothing to do with my reaction. I choose my reaction. I chose to be hurt by whatever she was saying. I don't have to choose that. And that was where I started changing my relationship. I realized I don't have to blame other people, my wife or anyone else, for how I'm feeling. I take responsibility for my own feelings. And when you can get to that, you will experience like a fantastic feeling of freedom. And I think your mental health will be improved. Basically, the spotting tools are sort of functional tools that actually can help change your mood. If you look at them that way, rather than whether they're actually true or not, then you can derive benefit from it. Because it doesn't really matter if it's true or false. As long as it helps you, it helps your mood. And I think that's what basically the idea of the spotting tools are. So I think, Ezra, did you want to share something about yours? Okay, so Ezra is going to share a little bit right now, thanks.
So I found recovery through Sigal, and I was very skeptical. I've read books of mental health before, this book, I started to look at a little bit at it, and it was, because it was based on experiences from the 30s and written in 1950, the language is very old-fashioned. They talk about words like temper and things like that I had to look in the dictionary. But it was very interesting to find out that it doesn't contradict any other information I've gotten before regarding mental health. And like Sigal said, whenever I read a self-help book, for example, I found that a month later I had forgotten about it. So having these mantras are very, very simple. And the fact that, for example, Gordon says it doesn't matter if they're true or not. For example, take the first one that Sigal showed, take mental health as a business, not as a game. What they're telling you is your mental health is very important. If you have an emotion that does not allow you to think properly, you want to be able to fix that. So mental health is a priority before you can have any rational thoughts. So I started using those tools, and like, for example, people do things that annoy you, not to annoy you. Well, maybe some people actually do things to annoy you, but if you actually think like that people do things that annoy you and not to annoy you, you'll be happier. In other words, your mental health, you're taking care of your mental health, you're taking it as a business. It doesn't matter if they're doing things to annoy you. In fact, generally speaking, people don't do things to annoy you. That's my experience. But if it happens that somebody does something to annoy you and you still take it as using the mantra, people do things that annoy you but not to annoy you, your mental health will benefit. As an example, in my case, I grew up in a household where discussions were frowned upon. Okay, so arguing with my parents was not something that they appreciated or encouraged. I don't think I was in an unusual household in that regard in my generation. So when I got married, I wanted to completely reverse that, and I insisted. In fact, before getting married, I told my wife, we're going to discuss every single issue until its final conclusion, because there is a right and wrong to do absolutely everything. And I realized that the world is not black and white, and there is a spotting that I learned when I first joined it says, there is no right and wrong in the trivialities of everyday life. And that was a big surprise to me. I mean, I had to argue with my wife the proper way to squeeze toothpaste, right? And she has her own tube of toothpaste, I have my own, so why do I care the way she squeezes her own? And things like that. A lot of things that are trivialities. We spend a lot of time arguing. In fact, in day-to-day life, most of the things we argue about are not life and death situations. They're very trivial. That's just one example that has helped me quite a bit. So, in fact, I never consider myself an angry person, but I have become even less angry than before because I don't take things, I try not to take things personally.
Good. Thank you, Ezra, for sharing. I just want to talk a little bit about, I think Ezra explained it quite well, what he meant about how recovery helps relationships. Like, for instance, in my case, I could have actually believed my wife was doing things to annoy me. But even if it was true, it's not good to believe that. You actually believe the opposite, that she's not doing it to annoy you, your relationship will improve. Like, recovery is one of the few methods of treatment that you can actually help a relationship without the partner actually doing couples counseling, for instance, because by changing your own reactivity to the situation in your relationship, you're able to automatically neutralize a lot of the anger and what goes on in a relationship. And so just by working on myself and controlling my own reactivity, my relationship automatically improved. And I found that this can be used for so many things besides your significant other, your relationship with your boss, your kids, whoever. And even you're dealing with someone in the bank, for instance. If you apply these principles, generally whoever you're interacting with, you find that things do go a lot better. You will be a lot less reactive. And when that person sees that you're less reactive, they're much more likely to cooperate and try to be helpful. People are not going to be helpful if you're angry and you're very demanding on them. They are going to be like scared off, and they're not going to be willing to cooperate. So following the principles that Dr. Lowe is saying, always act in a cultured manner. The other one is we extend the insincere gesture of fellowship rather than show the sincere feeling of resentment. For instance, what that means is you may resent, like you believe the teller is incompetent or whatever, but you never show that, never. Instead, you act in a cordial way and also in a very cultured way. When you do this, your results are going to be better in your relationships. I just want to go over what we do in a typical meeting. Now, what happened at a typical meeting is first we'll have a round of introductions. And very often if there's newcomers in a meeting, we'll ask, well, what brings you to recovery? So maybe we'll spend a few minutes talking about each person. We'll go around. Another thing what we'll do is we'll have a question of the week. We may say, what is the spotting tool you used for this week? Or maybe describe some incident that may have happened. What we will then do after that is we will read from our primary text. She showed a picture of it. The primary text is Mental Health Through Will Training. Now, if you want a copy of this, you can talk to me after the meeting, because this can be gotten through a PDF, so this is online, this document. These are some of the other readings. It's called The Wisdom of Dr. Lowe. People that want to do recovery through a workbook, there's a workbook and it has exercises in it. So you could do this yourself, at home, and do the exercises. These ones, unfortunately, we don't have PDF, these two, but we do have for the primary text. So we will do a reading. Everybody reads a couple paragraphs. After the reading period, we will do the example period. That's what I was just doing an example today about the snow. And after the example period, we will have what we call mutual aid, where we just generally talk about all kinds of topics, any kind of topics, and then Sue brings out her cake. So definitely, if you come to the Burnaby meeting, it's quite we do have very fortunate that we have some. She does prepare some very good food. I would, at this point, I sort of want to throw it out to any questions. Does anybody have any questions about